The old man standing near the grave suddenly smiled and said, "Interesting speech, but I'm not dead." Everyone froze. The priest dropped the Bible. A woman screamed, and the rich businessman standing beside the coffin turned completely pale, because the man inside that coffin was supposed to be Victor Hale. Victor was one of the richest men in New York City. He owned hotels, restaurants, and luxury buildings. People respected him. Some feared him, but nobody knew the truth about his family. Victor was 67 years old. His wife had died many years ago. He had only one son, Daniel. Daniel loved money more than people. Victor ignored the signs for years. He kept giving his son expensive cars, huge houses, and company shares. But Daniel was never happy. "Dad, when will you finally retire?" he often asked. Victor always laughed. But deep inside, he felt something was wrong. One night, Victor was returning home after a business meeting. Rain was falling hard. The roads were empty. Then suddenly, a truck crashed into his car. Everything went black. When Victor opened his eyes, he was lying inside a small cabin far outside the city. An old couple stood beside him. "You're lucky to be alive," the old woman whispered. Victor was confused. His phone was gone. His wallet too. The old man explained everything. "We found her car near the cliff. It exploded minutes later." Victor sat up slowly. "What about the police?" he asked. The couple looked nervous. "There were already people there before us," the old man said quietly. "They were searching the car. They looked dangerous." Victor felt cold inside. Something was wrong. Very wrong. A few days later, Victor secretly traveled back to the city. And what he saw destroyed him. Huge posters were hanging everywhere, in loving memory of Victor Hale. His funeral was already planned. Too fast. Too perfect. Victor pulled his hat lower and quietly entered one of his hotels. Inside, employees were crying. But not everyone looked sad. He overheard two managers talking. "Daniel will finally control everything now." Yeah, poor old man never saw it coming. Victor's heart pounded. That night, he sneaked into his own mansion. And then he heard the truth. Daniel was inside the office, laughing with a lawyer. "The old fool trusted me completely," Daniel said. "Now every company belongs to me." The lawyer looked nervous. "But what if the body isn't identified properly?" Daniel smiled. The fire solved everything. Victor stopped breathing for a moment. This was not an accident. His own son had tried to kill him. Victor quietly stepped back into the darkness. Tears filled his eyes. Not because of the money. Because of betrayal. For 3 days, Victor hid in cheap motels. He could not sleep. Every memory hurt him. Daniel's first birthday. His school graduation. The day Victor gave him the company keys. All fake. Or maybe greed changed him slowly. Then Victor made a decision. He would not go to the police yet. First, he wanted to see how far his son would go. The funeral day arrived. Rain covered the cemetery. Hundreds of rich people attended. Black umbrellas filled the air. Daniel stood beside the coffin wearing expensive sunglasses. He pretended to cry perfectly. "My father was a great man," he told the crowd. "He taught me everything." Victor watched from far away, wearing old clothes and a gray beard disguise. Nobody recognized him. Then Daniel continued speaking. "My father trusted me with his final wish, to continue his business legacy." Victor clenched his fists. Final wish? Lies. More lies. Then something shocking happened. A young woman suddenly walked toward the coffin. She carried a small child in her arms. "I need to speak to Daniel," she said loudly. The crowd became silent. Daniel's face changed instantly. "Not now," he whispered angrily. But the woman refused to leave. The little boy looked about 5 years old. "Tell them the truth," she shouted. "Tell them you promised to marry me after your father died." Gasps spread through the crowd. Daniel grabbed her arm hard. "You're crazy." But she pulled away and held up her phone. It showed messages. Secret photos. Bank transfers. Daniel looked trapped. Victor stared in shock. His son had another secret life too. The woman began crying. He said once the old man was gone, we would live together. The cemetery exploded with whispers. Reporters started recording everything. Daniel panicked. And that was the exact moment Victor decided to step forward. Slowly, he walked toward the crowd. At first, nobody noticed him. Then the priest looked up. His face turned white. The umbrella slipped from his hand. Victor stopped beside his own coffin. Then he spoke softly. Interesting funeral. Silence. Pure silence. Daniel turned around slowly. The color disappeared from his face. Dad. People stepped back in fear. Some thought they were seeing a ghost. Victor looked directly into his son's eyes. You seem disappointed to see me alive. Daniel could barely breathe. And no, I thought you were dead. Victor nodded slowly. That was the plan, wasn't it? The crowd gasped loudly. Cameras pointed everywhere. Daniel suddenly shouted. He's confused. Somebody call security. But Victor raised his hand. I heard everything, he said calmly. The lawyer. The inheritance. The accident. Daniel's knees weakened. The young woman stepped back, shocked. Victor opened a small folder. Inside were documents. Photos. Copies of illegal money transfers. And one final thing. A recording. Victor pressed play. Daniel's voice came from the speaker clearly. The fire solved everything. The cemetery became completely silent again. Daniel looked destroyed. The lawyer quietly walked away. Police officers nearby immediately stepped forward. Daniel tried to run, but he slipped in the mud and fell hard beside the coffin. Victor stared at him with tears in his eyes. Not anger. Pain. Real pain. You already had everything, Victor whispered. But you still wanted more. Daniel started crying. I was drowning in debt, he admitted. I didn't know what to do. Victor closed his eyes. For 1 second, he looked like a tired old father again. But then he stepped back. Because some betrayals cannot be forgiven. Police arrested Daniel in front of everyone. The young woman cried quietly while holding her son. Reporters rushed everywhere. And the funeral became the biggest news story in the country. But the real shock came later. Victor sold most of his companies. He donated millions to hospitals and orphanages. Then he disappeared from public life completely. Some people said they saw him living peacefully near the ocean. Others believed he changed his name forever. But nobody knew the full truth. Except one thing. The man who attended his own funeral learned that money can buy loyalty for a moment, but never love. And sometimes, the people sitting closest to your table are the ones waiting for your downfall.